What's up? I'm John Middlekauff, host of the GoLow Podcast. You can find it below in the description. Also, you're watching this on the Volumes YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe, share it with all your friends. I think the best part about majors, and really hard majors, and I'm a sucker, a major at an old school country club. I love the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach and Olympic Club. There's a purity to it because of how hard it is, the history, the legacy, and ultimately the difficulty of the golf separates the men from the boys on that given week. Who's playing the best? The fairways tend to be the tightest. Obviously, U.S. Open conditions are a little bit different than PGA conditions. And this week, which I think is by far the most interesting style of high-level golf, when you shave around the green. Because there are two ways to attack it. When you raise the rough to outrageous lengths around the green. So yeah, if I miss the green, I got to take a lob wedge and chunk it on to the green. And hopefully I get it close as possible. But literally everyone's hitting the same shot. You're just kind of hacking it out of there. Where when you shave it and you get runoffs, you have guys can bump and run, guys can hit flop shots, guys have just different angles of attack. And you can penalize, and listen, guys are going to get mad this week if it's playing really hard, feeling like there's an element of luck involved. Well, welcome to golf. That's sports. There's an element of luck to golf. Like, yeah, you might hit the perfect shot off by 2 yards and roll off, and that might cost you the tournament on Sunday. Tough shit. I mean, that's from an entertainment standpoint, and that's all I care about. I enjoy bloodbaths. Like 2 weeks ago when Max Homa won in D.C., that was, to me, one of the most entertaining tournaments of the difficulty of it. And every single shot I watched, I went, I would want no part of playing right now. And I think that's the best part of majors. Like last week in Texas, I'd have it on my hotel room when I was out and about, checking in on the scores. These guys are going so low. When they're doing that, it's like, God, I want to get out to the golf course. I want to hit 300-yard drives. I want to throw darts at pins and try to make birdies. But when you watch a major, you go, besides the Masters is unique, but the U.S. Open, a tough last year at Kiowa, you go, yeah, I'd want no part of playing this golf tournament. I'd want no part of doing this. And that, to me, is what makes a major. Because it's the best of the best, separates the men from the boys. It separates the champions from just the other rich guys that are in the top 20. I said it earlier this week on 3 and Out about the best part about the playoffs in basketball, football, and baseball. That's what we do it all for. It's what we root for as a fan because it separates, Chris Paul from Steph Curry. There's a reason Steph Curry is an all-time great champion, and he might get number 4 this year, and Chris is going to end his career with 0. There's a reason James Harden's an all-time great scorer who fails in the playoffs every single time. And then there are guys like Giannis who are champions, and it's no different at the majors. It's why we revere Tiger Woods. It's why we rooted so long for Phil Mickelson to get over the hump and when he finally won a major. It's why we put guys like Rory and Jordan Spieth on a pedestal because they won majors so early, because we know the difficulty of it. It's why Koepka, say what you want about his practice habits, his injuries, whatever. He won 4 majors. 4! Like, you got to tip your hat. It's why ultimately Greg Norman, separate from the LIV, right, third leg Greg, he's an underachiever. Because he only won 2. Yet, if you watch that 30 for 30 and then you start Googling him, you're like, he finished second all these times. All these guys that finished second, in the top 10, there's a list of 10 guys who finished second the most in majors, right? It's like Jack and Phil. I mean, every single one of them. I think Ben Hogan was one of them. They all have like 6, 7, 8 plus. Tom Watson. Yet Norman is in that class, yet he won the least. And it's telling because majors, let's face it, the pressure, it feels different. It's no different than the playoffs in basketball or football. As they say in the SEC, it just means more. And I think Tiger hit on it today when he was asked about Phil. And I wouldn't say Tiger crushed Phil, but he definitely made his stance I thought he was pretty candid about where he stood. And basically said, and I think this differentiates Tiger from Phil. And I think I would put Tiger in the category of Michael and Tom Brady. They never, for 1 second, played for the cash. They played to be champions. They played to be legends. They played to win. That consumed them. The only thing that they thought about 24/7, 365 was winning. And then when you win and accomplish that, like they did, I would throw Kobe in this too, the money follows and you print cash. And Tiger basically alluded like, listen, guys like me and Phil have made an unlimited amount of money out here. But I never came out here for the cash. And ultimately, he didn't say this, but I'll say it for him. Because of me, the cash on the PGA Tour skyrocketed. And Phil's wealth is directly tied to Tiger. Because if Tiger Woods had never been born by Earl, and I don't want to butcher his mom's name, but if they had never had Eldrick Tiger Woods, the PGA Tour would be, I don't even know how much the weekly purse would be. It would be nowhere near where it's at now. Tiger has brought probably 50, 60, 70% of the wealth to where the tour's at today. And Tiger basically said, I didn't even come out here for the money. I came out here to win. I came out here for the legacy. I came out here to be a Jack Nicklaus, an Arnold Palmer, to be a fucking legend. Clearly, Phil is much more obsessed with the money and the cash flow. And when we did the match, Tiger, let's face it, the Tiger-Phil match, the one on Thanksgiving, 3-4 years ago, Tiger was the big draw, and Phil ended up winning the $9 million or 15 or whatever the number was. But Phil got so consumed with we had to pay the PGA Tour. Phil, you didn't have to come out of pocket. TNT or Turner or whoever did. But Phil is so consumed with the money. And listen, I say it all the time. I'm as pro-business and pro-money as anyone that you will meet in the space. But I also think there's a balance to it all, right? Like what ultimately, Phil, you keep playing well like you did last year. You Kiowa, you're going to be a Ryder Cup captain. The money's going to keep flowing. You're winning the PIP. Money shouldn't be an issue. So if you really want to just sell out to go to the Saudis and ruin your entire legacy, which is ultimately what you want to do, I appreciate Tiger saying, yeah, he can get fucked because I don't care. Not only do we disagree on this, I'm not going to even take the time or the effort to reach out to him because ultimately Phil is coming at their business, and that's Tiger's business. It's why when Rory crushes him, it's why when Justin Thomas crushes him, it's why when Jon Rahm, he's coming after their pocketbooks. And he's trying to act like the betterment of the game, but it's bullshit. He's trying to ruin the PGA Tour. And listen, I understand, and even Tiger said, I disagree with a lot of things on the PGA Tour. Nothing is perfect, though. And the benefits it brings to us all, led by me, has been much more positive than negative. And Phil, sometimes in life, and listen, I'm a huge believer, put all your chips in the middle of the table. Put them all. As Bruce Arians would say, no risk it for the biscuit. I believe in leading life like that. But sometimes when you do it, and if you make a poor decision on the risk, you will get burned and you will lose. And Phil has lost this one. It is a disaster because the best player in the history of the game is now talking shit. Basically, the three lead dogs on the PGA Tour, Jordan's been less outspoken, but JT, Rahm, and Rory have clearly crushed them. And then some of the younger guys like Colin Morikawa want no part of it. It's dying on the vine. And then a guy like Rickie Fowler, who I do appreciate his answer. And honestly, to me, LIV is made for a guy like him. His PGA Tour success, and listen, I'm sure Rickie is everyone's raves about the human being. He's had a fantastic career. But his career making money as one of the most marketable superstars post-Tiger in the last decade plus, for a guy who has not accomplished anywhere near of what Rory, what Jordan, and some of these other guys, hell, even DJ, he's won 5 times. And he's made, I would guess, $80, $100 million off the course. Never been a major champion. His biggest win is the Players, which was an impressive win. But let's not act like Rickie is some super accomplished golfer relative to his wealth. Now, he finished high, and you get credit in golf just because you're not winning. If you're getting top 5s and top 10s, you're going to rack up a lot of money, and he did. But his career is not just trending poorly, it's sinking like a ship right now. He is not going to be able to compete moving forward on the PGA Tour, in my opinion, at that level in which he did for a long period of time and had a lot of success. So it sounded like I was diminishing. I think Rickie was a really, really good player. He just didn't win, and that's ultimately what we kind of judge you on at the level in which of his fame. But I give you credit for being a good salesman, for being a good guy, which he was, and parlaying that into a lot of money. And when he's asked, basically what he said was like, I haven't decided one way or the other. And I think clearly early on in the Saudi stuff, he was one of the guys rumored, like with Phil and Bryson, as these super famous guys to basically give a lot of money. And I think people think that Phil has been given 50, 80, however $1 million by the Saudis. There's a chance we never see Phil Mickelson again on the PGA Tour. Maybe he plays some Masters moving forward, but if you told me that Phil Mickelson never plays another PGA Tour event, I would believe you. If you tell me he never plays the U.S. Open again, I would believe you. If you tell me he never plays the PGA Championship game, I would believe you. The Masters, a little harder to believe, but who knows? Maybe they boot him for a while. To me, Rickie's not getting into these, Rickie barely got into this major. Rickie is not into the U.S. Open right now. Pretty sure Rickie did not play in the Masters. Rickie's career is in major jeopardy, especially when you factor in, like, a guy I gamble on a lot, and this guy's going to win, and I'm going to get him at great odds, is Davis Riley. Young kid, Alabama. There's like 3 Davis Rileys every year, and they're immediately better than Rickie. And Rickie's no dummy. He sees the talent coming on the tour year in, year out. Well, it's like football. Like, every year there's a draft. So if I'm an offensive lineman, like, I have my time to make my money and start, but eventually they're going to draft my replacement. And eventually I'm not going to be good enough. And eventually that replacement, that guy's going to be a 3rd-round pick. He's going to make a lot more money, and I'm going to get cut. Or they're not going to re-sign me in free agency. And that, to me, is kind of where Rickie's at. I don't blame him at all for going to the Saudi League. Now, you could argue, and this is what Tiger would say, Rickie, you spent the last decade creating this legacy on the PGA Tour as being one of the faces of the sport. People love you. You're revered. And you can make money despite not being a major champion for a long period of time. I've said forever, I think that if Phil doesn't want to do it, now I don't think it's an option, Rickie could be the next Nick Faldo. He could be in a booth like with Jim Nance. Young, at like 35, kind of transition like Tony Romo. Now, I don't know if he'd necessarily want to do that because, like I said, he's got a lot of money, but you don't think CBS would pay him $12, $15 million? He ain't making that anymore playing golf. So does he want to throw all that away? And I think, listen, I think Rickie gave a very fair answer. He's contemplating it, and we'll see. But to me, the LIV was made for him. I even think the LIV was made for Lee Westwood, Sergio Garcia, some of the older guys. But if you're one of the big guns, the amount of money you're making, how good life is, it doesn't make sense. And that's where Tiger goes, we print money out here. And it's why one of the young guns, like the guy I like this weekend, and listen, I tweeted it. I was flying home from Scottsdale. God, I just love that place. And I said, I'm going to bet JT the next 3 majors. I'm not a wizard. I can't see the future. If I could, I would make a lot more money gambling. I think he's going to win one of these next 3 majors, but I don't know which one. But I believe to my core, I haven't had a stronger belief as a golf bettor in Justin Thomas winning one of the next 3 majors. So I'm going to bet him every major. This one, the Country Club, and the Open Championship. I actually feel the strongest about the Open Championship. Shotmaker's course, if the wind's pumping, I think he's born and bred for it. But I like his chances this week. He's the only guy I'm taking in that kind of teens range at 16-1. I think you're going to really start seeing the benefits of bones on his bag. And I just think we all talk about it's been so long since he's won. I just think his time's now. And I feel very, very confident that he's going to play well. And I talked to Sobel about it here in a little bit, about his floor being really high. I couldn't be any more of a fan of his this week in terms of a gambler. I like, as a buddy texts me, my guy Scotty Raber texts me this quote from Victor Hovland. And because Tulsa, Oklahoma State's not very far away, Victor Hovland has played this course a lot. And just a couple years ago, Colin Morikawa, TPC Harding, had played that course a lot. Now, the way they did it that week was grow out the rough. The way they're doing it this week is might get into a chipping contest, which makes me a little nervous. But, like, what has Victor been doing the last couple weeks? Maybe he's just been chipping. Like, you would think, if I was Victor Hovland, I would just spend all my time, and listen, I'd say that, but chipping's pretty boring, but I would just go out to my practice facility. I think he still lives in Oklahoma, and they have an incredible practice facility, and just chip, and chip. But Victor has the talent if he can just figure out the chipping, but it is an issue. Another guy that I really like, if it's going to be a second shot golf course and hitting your irons is paramount for having success, I'm going to ride Hideki, because I think he's easily one of the best iron players on tour. and he's playing at a high level. I mean, he easily could have won last week, even though it was an easier course. The question on him was not his game. His game had been really high. It was injuries. And if he's healthy, I like Hideki, especially if I can get him at a number 28, 30, 35 to 1. Now, I think Hideki, like Max Homa, are pretty good top 5, top 10 like bets. Because Max Homa, if you tell me this course, they asked Tiger today, I think his winning score in 07 was either -7 or -8. And they asked him if, the course is going to play a little bit easier, but what his number was. And, Tiger, I would say, gave a kind of a cliche answer. It's hard to tell. The wind, there's some unknowns at, how firm the golf course gets. But it's not going to be 18, probably be closer to somewhere 10 to 12. So to me, if it's going to be like that, Max Homa, who we've seen just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when they played in D.C., that looked like a major championship. And he was awesome in it. Where'd he win last year? Riviera. What plays really hard? Riviera. Same thing with Keegan Bradley, who would be the one long shot, and obviously he's won the PGA Championship before, but think of where Keegan Bradley played well this year. He finished second at the Players' Championship. That thing was a bloodbath. And then 2 weeks ago, he was the guy playing with Max Homa. So I have to take a guy, if I'm going to take one of the non-Morikawas, Hovlands, Rahms, Scotty Schefflers, those type guys, is people that can play well at tough golf courses. It's like what translates in football? Defense, good coaching. It's why the same teams typically have success in the playoffs, and a good quarterback. Like in these major championships, you have to be able to handle tough conditions. If you can't handle tough conditions, the Masters is kind of unique. You can be a Masters player, but these other courses, it gets very, very difficult. So when you can handle tough conditions, it's why Gary Woodland, I bet on him sometimes at some of the harder courses. I literally watched him win at Pebble Beach under very, very tough conditions. Beat out Koepka. It's my question with Koepka is health. If Koepka's not healthy, I struggle. But when I start seeing his odds creep up to 40 to 1, I watched some of his press conference today after he got locked out of his car. He felt, kind of his cocky swag self, and he gave a pretty interesting nugget. And I think sometimes, listen, we all can lose our confidence in different walks of life, whether it's professionally, whether it's personally, and you have to find a way to get it back. And we all take different avenues to do that, right? Sometimes there's self-reflection. Sometimes it's losing weight. Sometimes it's, getting a new job, at whatever, dumping your girlfriend. But I think what Koepka said today is he went back to YouTube and watched some of his previous major wins and when he had success in majors and just looked at his body language, his posture, his alignment. And he's like, I took some things away. And sometimes you just need things to trigger the brain. Because I know this. When it gets fucking tight and the course is hard as shit and it just, everyone starts crumbling, that's when Brooks thrives. Now, I don't know if that means he's going to win it. But even last year, who was playing with Phil on Sunday? Brooks Koepka. So it's just, I have more faith in him on a week-in, week-out basis when it comes to majors than even like DJ and Rahm. Now, if you told me who's more likely, like if I had to bet $1,000 on Rahm or Koepka, I would put it on Rahm. But I would not be surprised also if Jon Rahm's not really in it, right? It's weird. I mean, I do believe Jon Rahm's one of the better players I've ever seen over the last 3 years, his game. But I've kind of go back and forth whether I'm confident he's going to win. I've seen Koepka time and time and time and time again not only win these tournaments, but even when he loses, he's right there. Who finished second when Tiger won in 19? Brooks. It's hard to bet against the guy. It really is.